like to begin by thanking Ohr Somayach for hosting me. It's now about 25 summers. I figure a little over 2 weeks each summer. I'm already learned a year in Eretz Yisrael. Somewhat spread out, and it's really a schus to be here in the beautiful Beis Medrash, and I want to thank all of you who came. I'd like to share with you a machshava. It's based on a letter of the Brisker Rav. In the back of the Grizal Rambam, there are a few letters, not many, from the Brisker Rav that are printed. They're not machshava letters, they're halacha letters, kedarkei shel brisk. They're b'nei Noach, and lahavdil, there's Klal Yisrael. Humanity on this world is divided. The Kadosh Baruch Hu is mavdil ben Yisrael la'amim. Kadosh Baruch Hu is mavdil between Klal Yisrael, Mekablei HaTorah, and the Umas Ha'olam or not. There's actually a third category, and that's a Ger Toshav. A Ger Toshav is somewhat of an in-between category. The Gemara in Makis and Daf Tes talks about how exactly to count Ger Toshav, Kutihu, not Kutihu, how to look at a Ger Toshav. What is a Ger Toshav? A Ger Toshav is somebody who's not a member of Klal Yisrael, not born into Klal Yisrael. He's not a Ger Tzedek, he didn't convert and become a member of Klal Yisrael. A Ger Toshav is someone who is Mekabel Sheva Mitzvos B'nei Noach. He accepts upon himself the achrayus of keeping the Sheva Mitzvos B'nei Noach, and he does so in a formal way. He goes to Beis Din, and in Beis Din he's Mekabel on himself to keep the 7 mitzvahs, the Mitzvos B'nei Noach. And suddenly he's transformed into a Ger Toshav. What's a Ger Toshav? A Ger Toshav has many different halachas. The Torah says, V'chzakta boi, there's a mitzvah to give chizuk, to help somebody to have parnasa. It says, Ger v'soishav imach. It mentions a Ger Toshav there. A Ger Toshav, it's a mitzvah l'hachayosa. It's a mitzvah to help support him, to give him life, to save his life. And he's called a Ger Toshav because he has a makom to live in Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is for Klal Yisrael. A Ger Toshav is somebody who has a schus to live, to be a Toshav, to live among us, to live in Eretz Yisrael, even though he was never mekabel on himself to Sheva Mitzvos B'nei Noach, more than the Sheva Mitzvos B'nei Noach. He's mekabel the Sheva Mitzvos in Beis Din, and he gets the status of a Ger Toshav. So the Brisker Rav deals with the problem that what kind of being mekabel Sheva Mitzvos B'nei Noach, what does it mean? He's mekabel Sheva Mitzvos. Any Ben Noach, any human being in the world, is obligated to keep Sheva Mitzvos B'nei Noach because HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded Noach and his descendants that they're obligated to keep Sheva Mitzvos B'nei Noach. There's a chiyuv on B'nei Noach to keep the Sheva Mitzvos. The Gemara says in the beginning of Avodah Zarah, Akum shalom Torah hariyu k'kohen gadol. A guy who learns Torah is like a kohen gadol. Tosha says, what do you mean? A guy's not supposed to learn Torah? He says, no, to learn the Torah, the mitzvahs, so Sheva Mitzvos B'nei Noach. Because every Akum is also mitzvah and Sheva Mitzvos B'nei Noach. So Brisker Rav is bothered by this kasha. He's not the first to ask it. But what does it mean, a Ger Toshav? He goes to Beis Din, mekabel Sheva Mitzvos B'nei Noach. What's the Kabbalah exactly? He's mechuyev anyhow. Many of the Achrayim try to answer this kasha by finding a lumdisha nafkamina. How a Ben Noach before he's mekabel has one set of rules, and after he's mekabel there's some change in the halachis of a Ben Noach to a Ger Toshav. Not the Brisker Rav. Brisker Rav is not frightened by the kasha. He doesn't look for nafkaminas. He says, Hainu hach. A Ben Noach who keeps Sheva Mitzvos B'nei Noach is doing what he's obligated to do. There are b'nei Noach, there are many b'nei Noach who don't kill, don't steal, and they're being mekayim sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach. A Ger Toshav is something else. A Ger Toshav is someone who goes to Beis Din and says, I'm mekabel to do sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach because the Rebbeinu Shalom commanded me. Not because my sense of right and wrong tells me you're not supposed to kill people, you're not supposed to steal from people, you're not supposed to be Oved Avodah Zarah. He says, my sense of right and wrong says so. That's a Ben Noach. The Ger Toshav, the Kabbalah beBeis Din, the fact that when he does it because he's doing it because the Rebbeinu Shalom is mitzvah him, the same Kiyum mitzvah. Because he's doing it because the Rebbeinu Shalom is mitzvah him, that person becomes a Ger Toshav. And the Brisker Rav tells us to see a Ritva on Daf Tesam at Aleph, in Makis, and he teaches that that's the kavanah of the Ritva. The Ritva says, his lashon is, before he's mekabel in Beis Din, he does mitzvahs ke'enei mitzvah va'isa. He's mitzvah. But his kiyum, if you have somebody who's not mekabel in Beis Din, Ben Noach, and does mitzvahs, he does it with his own hachras hadas. He does it because his logic, his rationale, his sense of morality tells him to do it. It's his hachras hadas. He's not doing it as mitzvah va'isa. He's not doing it because he's commanded. He's doing it because it's the right thing to do. That's a Ben Noach. A Ger Toshav is someone who does it ki mitzvah va'isa. He does it because Hashem commanded me. I'm a mitzvah va'isa. I'm commanded and I do it. That's a different behavior. It's a different avodah. It's a different sense of kiyum sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach. It's interesting. In America, we have a group of Noahites. There are people who are mekabel sheva mitzvahs. They live down south for the most part. There's a group in Atlanta, a group in Texas. We had a Ger Tzedek in our shul, whose parents are Noahites. And by his chasana, he got married in Passaic. In one of the wedding halls, there were 3 sections. There was a mechitza. On one side were the men, on the other side were the women. But the Noahites sat mixed. They have no chiyah to sit separate. So they had their own section. They're maminim in the Rebbeinu Shalom, not ready to be mekabel tayag mitzvahs, but they serve the Rebbeinu Shalom. They serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The side is, and it's a whole different story. When you do something because it feels like the right thing to do, it feels like that's what you should do, you're doing the mitzvahs. You're doing the mitzvahs. The Rambam says mitzvah sichlius, you should do. You should feel it's the right thing to do. But if you do something because it's correct, so then one day you have a rationale, you rationalize that it's not important to do it, so it falls away. It falls away. If you do it because the Rebbeinu Shalom commanded you, it's not dependent on you, you're a mitzvah va'isa, so then it's difficult to rationalize a change. Chazon Ish writes that a Ben Noach who keeps the Sheva mitzvahs without exception 100% of the time, and a Ger Toshav who's makabel, but he doesn't keep it 100% of the time. Machmas l'teyava, and he sometimes does have Eretz. And he does. He knows it's wrong, and sometimes he does it. People have a Yetzer Hara. He says the Ger Toshav who doesn't keep it all the time is still a Ger Toshav. He belongs in Eretz Yisrael. The Akum who does it because it's his rationale that tells him to do it, it's fine, it's good. But he's not a Ger Toshav. He's not on the level of the Ger Toshav. You see, it's not the performance that makes a person great. It's the the sense of purpose, the sense of mission, the machshava, the idea that a person has when he's doing it. So was heißt der Ger Toshav? Someone who does it because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mitzaveh. That's a Ger Toshav. Naturally, what's true about a Ger Toshav in his Sheva Mitzvahs is true alachas kama v'kama in its own madrega l'gabe Klal Yisrael. I want to share with you a Mishnah Berurah. It's a Mishnah Berurah, it's Afana Halacha, a one-line Mishnah Berurah. But listen. The Mechaber says in Hilchas Tefillin, in Siman Lamed Ches Siv Ches, that a person who's writing or selling tefillin and mezuzahs is called the Oisik b'mitzvah. He's Oisik b'mitzvah, potem ben mitzvah. If somebody's selling or writing tefillin and mezuzahs, he's Oisik b'mitzvah. What does it mean, potem ben mitzvah? Well, when it's efshur l'kayim shneim, meaning you could sell your mezuzahs and close the store and go daven mincha and come back, so of course you're obligated to. But let's say, the example the Mishnah Berurah brings, you have someone who's leaving. He's a Yetzer b'shiyara, he's leaving town. He needs a pair of tefillin. He's traveling somewhere, he's not going to have tefillin. And you're writing a pair of tefillin, or you're a sefer putting together a pair of tefillin for him. So it says in Shulchan Aruch, it comes a man Kriya Shema, you don't have to say Kriya Shema, you don't have to say Shemay Esrei. If it comes mincha time, you don't have to daven mincha. You Isaac b'mitzvah, patem and mitzvah. If it's not efshur l'kayim shneim, if you're in a situation where the only way this man will have tefillin is if you do it now, so it's a halacha psuka, it's a clear halacha in Shulchan Aruch without machlaikis, that the sefer doesn't daven. The sefer puts together the tefillin so that the person should have tefillin. Isaac b'mitzvah, patem and mitzvah. On that, the Mishnah Berurah brings, it depends. Depends. Why is this sefer in the tefillin business? Mishnah Berurah says if he's in the tefillin business, he needs parnasa. He needs a parnasa. He tried to open a restaurant, it flunked, it didn't make it. He tried to open a summah, it didn't make it. There was a Svarim store for sale. So he bought a Svarim store, he's selling tefillin. It says if his kavan in selling tefillin is to support his family, which is not an avera. If his kavan is to support his family, Mishnah Berurah says he's not a Oisik b'mitzvah. He's not a Oisik b'mitzvah, he has to go down in mincha. The other person won't have tefillin, He has no p'tur. If his kavanah is that he's a sefer because he wants to be mansi, he wants to have a yad in making tefillin available to Yidden, he has a parnasa from it. But his kavanah is for the mitzvah shabai, so then he's a Isaac b'mitzvah, patem and a mitzvah. It's mavel arayin. You can go down the avenue, you can go down Malchei Yisrael, you can have two Svarim stores. And one Svarim store, the owner of the Svarim store in Shemayim, he's Isaac b'mitzvah a whole day, every day of the week, every week of the year. And the other person, the Rebbeinu Shalom looks at him, he has a business, he's making parnasa for his family, it's a fine thing to do. But to your eye, they're doing exactly the same thing. One is doing for parnasa, and one is an Isaac b'mitzvah. It's a tremendous mechayiv, this Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah says, it's a one-line Mishnah Berurah, he's quoting Magen Avraham. He says it as a command, as a davar pachit, that you can have two people, like the Ger Toshav and the Ben Nayat, they're both doing. But one is doing because the Rebbeinu Shalom commanded him, he's doing it as a mitzvah, and the other one's doing it because it's the right thing to do. Here you can have two people that are Isaac in the same mitzvah, and one, his mind is to do the Ratzon Hashem, to do the Tzivay Hashem, and the other, he wants to, it's the Ratzon Hashem to make parnasa for his family too, but he's not a Isaac b'mitzvah in the pu'ula that he does and what he's doing. when you look at this Nakuda of difference, it's a tremendous mechayiv. It means each of us, the things we do, the things that we do anyway, we can do them two ways. We can do them out a mitzvah, we can do them out not a mitzvah. The Beis Halevi in Parshas Va'era, I don't know if all the poskim agree to the Beis Halevi, but he says the following. Beis Halevi says, if you have a chayla sheyesh by sakana on Shabbos, somebody is a chayla and you're allowed to be mechal, not you're allowed, it's a mitzvah to be mechal Shabbos. Somebody a chayla sheyesh by sakana and he has to be, he needs surgery to save his life. Listen to the Beis Halevi says. He says, if a frum yid goes and is mechal Shabbos and does surgery, so he gets schar for what he did. He gets schar. What did he do? He was matzalna. He was mechal Shabbos to save someone's life. It says if you have a fraya yid, the yid was there anyway. He's there anyway, and the person goes to the hospital, and a fraya yid does surgery. He's not doing it because of pekuach nefashis. Beis Halevi, it's hard to understand. He says that he's going to get an einish v'chil Shabbos. In Mechal Shabbos. The Beis Halevi says you can go to a frum doctor or a not frum doctor. You would think, go to the not frum. At least he's Mechal Shabbos, he should save someone's life. He says, no, you should go to the frum doctor because the other one, they're doing exactly the same thing. But one, his kavana is, the Bari Elam told me to Mechal Shabbos, for B'kuach Nefashis. And the other one, Mechal Shabbos the whole day. It's a parnasa. It's just a mind-boggling difference in the shinoi, in the ishtanas, and the difference between someone who takes on himself to be an Oved Hashem and someone who doesn't take on himself to be an Oved Hashem. When a person is mekabel on himself, that what he does is because it's Ratzon Hashem, even if he falls sometimes, even if he fails often, but he's an Eved Hashem, he's doing. You say the Baal Shem Tov once said to his grandson that a goy veis nishvas is a yid. It's hard for the outside world to understand what it means to be a Jew. And his grandson answered him, a yid veis nishvas is a yid. Even we don't appreciate it. During the COVID summer, which is the only summer I wasn't here, in the last 25, or maybe almost 30 years, we, meaning a group of us, opened a camp in New Hampshire, in a Republican state where they let people live. So we took nearly 500 people up a 9-hour drive. We rented a camp. People had never seen Orthodox Jews before. And we had a camp there. The camp was actually half on an island and half on a mainland. Why it was built that way, just for us. And there was a boat that ferried people back and forth all the time. The only non-Jews, and that was the only original people running the camp that were really there, were the drivers, the people who drove this ferry back and forth, the cruiser back and forth from the mainland. It was Shivasa B'Tammuz. And I was on the cruiser, I was going across, and this non-Jewish driver of the ferry says to me, he says, Rabbi, they're telling me today's a fast day. I said, yeah. He said, you mean all the boys are fasting? I said, yeah. He says to me, come on, you really believe that? You really believe it? All these 13, 14, 15-year-olds, you really believe they're not eating a whole day? You think they're not sneaking a drink in the bathroom? Go tell them that we don't drink in the bathroom anyway. He certainly won't understand. But he says, so he's telling it to me like it's the most ridiculous thing. There's nothing I could say to convince him. Nothing I could possibly do to convince him. So that afternoon, of course, a boy comes to me. He's not feeling well. Should he? Shouldn't he break his fast? Should he? He could hold out 2 hours. I'm thinking, a yid veis nishvas is a yid. When a person does because he sees that he's an Eved Hashem, then a person has the kayach to do it, he has the energy to do it, he does it. It's taka a kiyum of serving the Rabbeinu Shalom. There was an incident a number of years ago. A couple that lived in South America, Buenos Aires. He was from there, part of the Frum community there. And he got married and they were living there. His wife wanted to move to Eretz Yisrael. And they argued about it. He had his parnasa there, he had his business there, he had his family there. And she wanted to move and they agreed. They'll ask Rabbi Yashiv. They asked him the Shaila, and she was sure. Everyone told her it's a fair Mishnah. The Mishnah says that's how the Yishuv Eretz Yisrael comes into Mesachtes Ksubis. The Mishnah says that if one wants to go to Eretz Yisrael, the other has to go along. So he came to Rabbi Yashiv. Rabbi Yashiv asked her, why do you want to move to Eretz Yisrael? She said, look, I have no friends here. I have no friends in South America here. I haven't know so many people. There's so little kosher food, kosher restaurants, kosher, and Eretz Yisrael, you have everything available. So Rabbi Yashiv told him, you don't have to move. So she was shocked. She was shocked. So the way it's brought, I believe it's brought in Derech Sicha. But Yashiv said, what we're talking about today. Somebody wants to go to Eretz Yisrael because Bari Olam wants him to be in Eretz Yisrael, because Eretz Yisrael is the Tzenu HaKadosh, because the Kedusha is Eretz Yisrael. He wants to be here because of what Eretz Yisrael has to offer in Ruchnius. So such a person is Taka. He's could be Kafosa husband. But to come to Eretz Yisrael because the food is good. To come to Eretz Yisrael because you have friends here. So that is no kfiyah. You can't be kai for one another. It's all the same thing. It's all the same idea. It's all the Ger Toshav. It's all the question. You're doing the right thing. Why are you doing the right thing? What is your motivation? What is your purpose? What is your sense of what you're doing? It's a different Eved Hashem when a person does it because the Rebbeinu Shalom wants him to do it. And when a person does it because of many other possible reasons. It's an avodah. We don't train ketanim in chinuch. We train them to do. We train them to do because they get candy and to do because they shouldn't get punished. And that's all mechanech ketanim. You can't start teaching a katan to have the sense of higher purpose. But at some point we have to stop being ketanim. We have to go beyond that and do because we do, because we see it as a sense of the chiyuv, of what the Bayer Elohim is mitzvah, to see ourselves as Avdei Hashem, being busy with Avodas Hashem all of the time. It's a sense that every year El and the Seres Yimei Tshuva have to give us. The idea of being Mekabel Machusai is the sense that what we do anyway. We do anyway. It's lav dafka because we're Mekabel to do more. Of course we're Mekabel to do more, but it's lav dafka. It's the sense, the constant sense. In the United States, El doesn't start until Erev Rosh Hashanah. Pretty much. Now everyone's still busy up in the mountains, going back and forth, and in the United States, all of the Orthodox Jews have their summer outfits, their polo shirts, and their grills, and all their other silliness. And it's chaval. The whole Elul is lost. And here, a sense of Elul, the way it should be. It's harder in America. There are a lot of good people in America who Elul is Elul. But it doesn't, the atmosphere doesn't feed it. Here, in Eretz Yisrael, those of you who are fortunate enough to be here, to have the sense why you're here, the purpose of being here, to just have a sense of the history of your being here. Everything you see here in Eretz Yisrael was built in my lifetime. I mean, everything, the whole binyan of, to have here a set of Kol Kisvei Chafetz Chaim, a new set, I mean, it's relatively new, it's put out by the family, and it has a few letters, number of letters that I'd never seen before. As a matter of fact, I noticed the letter has some information that's even not in the biographies of the Chafetz Chaim. It seems the family collected letters from different families. In there, one section of the letters, they have the letters the Chafetz Chaim wrote in regard to moving to Eretz Yisrael. It's maybe, I don't know if it's 10 letters or 12 letters. One letter, it was written just 100 years ago. The Chafetz Chaim, his first attempt to move to Eretz Yisrael was abandoned when his wife took ill 2 days before they were supposed to leave. She had to go to Warsaw for emergency surgery. And the Chafetz Chaim's letter is there also writing about this. And as I think is well known, 3 years later, he made another attempt to come. In the biographies, it's not clear why he abandoned the second attempt to come. There's a letter there. Chafetz Chaim writes, if I recall correctly, it's in Pei Beis, it's just over 100 years ago. He writes that the situation in Yerushalayim is that there's no food. People don't have what to eat. People are moving back to Chutz La'aretz because of the poverty. And it's unconscionable for me to go in a time that there's such a time of scarcity in Yerushalayim. So I'm reading that from 100 years ago. And then I go eat the Suda Shabbos here with the Bachrim here. And what they throw out is enough to feed an army. In Eretz Yisrael. The plenty that we have here, the bracha that we have here, it didn't come, it wasn't always this way. It wasn't this way all the time. A person can live in Eretz Yisrael because it's nice to live in Eretz Yisrael. A person can have a sense that the Bari Olam is calling together. He's calling together. V'shavu me'eretz oyev. He's calling together the Klal Yisrael. It's a different avodah. It's a different sense. The difference between a Ger Toshav and a Ben Noach is that a Ger Toshav belongs in Eretz Yisrael. That means that the avodah of Eretz Yisrael for everybody is to have that sort of that sense of purpose, that sense of goal. It's an avodah. It's an avodah. Sometimes someone like me, who's not here as much as I'd like to be, perhaps senses it more. I don't know, maybe you sense it more. There's a Reb Tzaddik. He writes about this in a few places, but I'm quoting Resisei Laila, page Yud Zayin. Reb Tzaddik writes, as you know, Klal Yisrael is Nimshal Levana. Klal Yisrael is compared to the moon, and the nations of the world are compared to the sun. The solar year is the year of the nations of the world, and the lunar year is our year. Klal Yisrael Nimshal Levana. Levana has periods of darkness and periods of when it's bright, and Klal Yisrael too in our history have had the ups and downs of the cycle of the Levana. Reb Tzaddik writes to explain this mashal, B'nei Yisrael nimshalu Levana, Shakadosh Baruch Hu bara ha'adam bal chisaron shetzarach hashlama. Hashem created Klal Yisrael. We're missing something. We need to be mashlim. We need to work on improving ourselves. Zeu shirish Yisrael, shein bali chisaron umikavin lahashlama. He says, we're born, we come into this world, bali chisaron, we have to work on ourselves. Aval umas ha'olam nishlu kachama. The nations of the world are compared to the sun. Kivan she'ein etzlam inyan hashlama, lo nivru b'chisaron. How to understand that Tzaddik writes mysterious things. He says the nations of the world are created without chisaron. And they don't have to be mashlim like the sun. It's not missing anything. And Klal Yisrael's nimshul l'lavana, we have to be mashlim. And the answer is that the Bnei Noach, they have to do what they do. It doesn't have to be an avodah. A Ben Noach has to keep Sheva mitzvahs. It doesn't have to be an avodah. It's not an avodah of the Bari Olam. Klal Yisrael is required to be mekavel hashlama, to want to be shalom, to do things not just because we have a sense that it's right, but to do things because we see ourselves as an Eved Hashem, as Avdei Hashem. As Avdei Hashem, that's the avodah. When you walk out of a building in Yerushalayim, you walk in the streets of Yerushalayim, for 2,000 years, our parents, I'm named after a grandfather who was nifta in 42. I think he ever dreamt that his grandson will be in Yerushalayim and be able to go back and forth like this and to be here often. It's just such a hischadshus in the Bria that we're all part of. We're able to walk in the street and see ourselves. Person, the Ashreinu Matayv Chalkeinu, the miracle that's Klal Yisrael here, it hasn't happened. The nation doesn't come back. The American Indians aren't taking over the country anymore in America. Lahavda. And Klal Yisrael, we're back, we're building it. Everything is to appreciate it, to see ourselves as tools in Avodas Hashem. A number of years ago, I came with two Masifta Bachrim to Eretz Yisrael when I came for the summer. And we were in the airport. And we were making the long trek to the passport control. And as many of you know, there's a moving sidewalk for a little piece of it, which occasionally works. So they asked me, if we go on the moving sidewalk, are we losing the schus of going down Amis Eretz Yisrael? I looked at them, and these are the first steps they ever had in Eretz Yisrael, these two Bach. I wish I had that appreciation. I wish I had that type of appreciation. It's an avodah. It's an avodah to be here because we're tools in the avdus, in the Rebbeinu Shalom's, bringing Klal Yisrael back. Bringing Klal Yisrael back. Yeah. You don't have to be a genius to see that in the 1970s, HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought back the Yidden from all the Arab countries. They were all thrown out and came here. And then after 79, after the overthrow of Iran, that all the Iranian Jews, many of them came here. And the next decade, from Russia, 1 million Yidden came here. 1 million Yidden. Now, we may be disappointed that they're not sitting in Kail, some are not Shem Shabbos, but they came here. They had bris milah. In the 80s, you couldn't get an operating room for elective surgery because they were all booked with the Russian Yidden booking it for bris milah. I don't think there was such a mass adult bris milah since the time of Yeshua. And the last decades from Europe, Jews have been coming here. And I don't think it's so far away. The Bari Olam is going to bring the last holdout from the other side of the ocean here. I hope he brings us in a good way. But you just have to have your eyes open to see it. Two people could have svarim stores. And one is Isaac b'mitzvah all day, and one is Isaac b'parnasa all day. It's fine to be Isaac b'parnasa, but it's not an Isaac b'mitzvah. Two people could be saving someone's life. And one person could be an Isaac b'mitzvah, and one person could be Isaac b'parnasa. And two people could move to Eretz Yisrael, And one could be moving to Eretz Yisrael for the aliyah, the true aliyah. And the other one could be moving here for the comforts. And two people could be living in Eretz Yisrael and walking in Eretz Yisrael. And it's all in the appreciation that a person has. The appreciation of Malchus Yisbarach, of the Malchus Hashem. And every year, we have the 40 days. 40 days from Rosh Chodesh Elul till Yom Kippur. All the Svarim say it's 40 days. If you take a calendar and count, you'll see it's actually 39. But anyway, we'll pretend. We have 40 days when we are reminding ourselves of Malchus Yisbarach. You walk out in the street after learning here, you go out, you say, you walk out, you say it with a simcha here, with a great joy. So big deal, who's talking? Have a flight back to America in 2 days. I'm talking. All right, maybe it'll rub off on me eventually. Ashreichem, those of you who are zeichet to be here, every moment, every step. You could do it this way, you could do it that way. Do it this way. You should appreciate. You should know it's thousands of years since the center of Torah was Eretz Yisrael. When I grew up, the center of Torah was still America. And before the Holocaust, it was Europe. And since Rabbeinu HaKadosh, since Rebbe and his Talmidim, Rav and Shmuel, ran away from Eretz Yisrael because of the persecutions, they opened up the two yeshivas in Bavel. Since Rabbeinu HaKadosh, which is when the Beis Hamikdash still stood, it hasn't happened that the center of Torah was here. But it's back here, Ashreinu, Matayv Chalkeinu. You should appreciate it. You should have a feeling for it. When you look at the kaisel, you should see a kaisel that stood with nobody in front of it for 2,000 years. Nobody was there. Nobody was davening. Yechidim, individuals went. The Ramban came to Yerushalayim. There was no minyan, he writes on Shabbos. They had to import somebody from outside Yerushalayim for minyan. We can appreciate it. We can have a hergish. And the same things we do all the time. Could be a chelik in Avodas Hashem. An akum, who's makabel, is a Ger Toshav. He has a right of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. Achas kama v'kama, those of us for whom the Shavu Banim was written. If we do it, we'll have the schus, Mitzvot Hashem, to continue, and Takav Shavu Banim leGvulam, Ani b'Seicham, we should be zeichet to be here, to grow here, to wax here, Mitzvot Hashem, to appreciate the wonderful gift HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us. A good Kabbalah to everybody.